Okay, let's do number 12. Number 12. Based on the results of experiment 2, that's our first question answered. As the amount of glycerin mixed with liquids increased, the vapor pressures of the liquids, okay, this is like our relationships. Are they going to go in the same direction? Or are they going to go in the opposite direction? Okay, so this would be an inverse, and this would be our direct. Okay, inverse and direct relationship, okay? So as one increases, if it decreased, that would be indirect. If it increased at the same time it increased, that would be direct. Okay, if it decreased and increased, it would be changing. If it increased and decreased, it would be changing, okay? So our looking for, so our 2 is our looking for, glycerin and vapor pressures. Okay, so glycerin and vapor pressure. Okay, so experiment 2, let's go to experiment 2. So this is the results of experiment 2 right here. So as glycerin increases, that's glycerin, vapor pressure, what does it do? Okay, we already drew these trend lines, okay? So now we can just look at it, okay? So as glycerin increased, does it go in the same direction? If it goes in the same direction, then that means it's increasing at the same time. If it goes in a different direction, that means that it's not increasing at the same time. It's decreasing, okay? So this one's going bigger, and this one's getting smaller, okay? Remember that this is the smaller side. We always start at the smaller side, okay? So if we reach the smaller side of this when we get to the biggest side of this, then that means that this one was decreasing, okay? So now we would say it's probably decreasing. So it's not increasing, right? So all the vapor pressures of these liquids are increasing. I mean, in this direction, right? But they're decreasing if you mix more glycerin, okay? So, and then it doesn't change because we look at all of these numbers and we've analyzed them all, okay? Okay, so let's move on to 13. Let's do our 2 colors. Based on the results of experiment 2, so that is our where. Now, what are we looking for? If 5 moles of glycerin were dissolved in 1 milliliter, so 5 moles of glycerin in 1 liter of hexane, the vapor pressure would be. Okay, so what are we looking for? 5, I don't know what a mole is. Actually, I do. So let's just do 5 moles of glycerin, 1 liter hexane. Vapor pressure is our question mark. Well, it's not necessarily a question mark, but that's what we're going to end up with, okay? So 5 moles of glycerin. So let's look. Glycerin. Okay, we're going to have to guess on this one, right? We're going to have to continue this trend. So hexane, 1 liter of hexane. 1 liter of hexane. Well, we don't know exactly what 1 liter of hexane is, so let's go. So we've now got a question. This wasn't a real question mark. This is a real question mark. Okay, why do we have 1 liter of hexane? We can't find that on the table. Okay, well, let's go to the passage. The students poured 1 liter of pentane into the beaker. Right? Okay, so they're just mixing this stuff in there with 1 liter. So they're always doing that. So they're always. So we don't really care about this. Don't worry about that. Okay? Now, we're going to, so if they're always doing something, that's a control. Okay? Remember how we talked about independent variables, dependent variables, and controls? Okay? This was a control. They're always keeping that the same. Don't worry about that. Okay? We're concerned about the vapor pressure because that's going to be the dependent variable. Okay? Independent variables, dependent variables. Okay? So now we've got 5 right here. We're going over this way. Let's see. Hexane. So hexane is right here. So we are going, this is the upward way. So that means that this one would be down. So that means it's going to be less than 141, right? If we continue this trend. So we'll most likely be closest to, okay. So we can go ahead and eliminate some answers. So if it's going to be at least less than 141, we could say 151, definitely not, and 200, definitely not, okay? So now we know that we've got to find the answer between these two. So let's look at our trend, okay? Now let's guess. So let's see these two, let's subtract. That's almost like 9. That's almost 9 between those two. That's like 12 between those two, okay? So let's look at here. So this should be at least, this should be around 10 right here. So let's subtract 10. So 141 minus 10 would be like 131, okay? So 5 should probably be around 131. All right, and we'll do 14 in the last video.